Hello fellow gamers, this is Kuro bringing you my take on Winter Wonderland. This is a super fun golden karma farm for those who are fans of jumping puzzles and is only accessible during Winter's Day. I'm going to talk about preparation and then I'll give a rundown of the puzzle for new players. Finally, I'll go in-depth into my speedrun strats. This guide is brought to you by Liars, Cheats, and Thieves. If you're looking for a mature social PvX guild, feel free to check us out at our website at liar.fyi. The money you gain is pretty straightforward. You earn 15 gifts every run. They historically drop down to less than 5 silver by the end of Winter's Day, and go up during the year to a maximum of about 8 silver at the start of Winter's Day. Base karma reward is 1,000, but 5,000 for the first 3 runs in a day. Your karma gain modifier does apply here, so let's take a quick look at the wiki to see how we can get our karma gain up. Keep in mind different Winter's Day consumables have different prices, so find the cheapest ones. Also, you'll need to stack 30 candy canes if you want the duration to match that of your food. The guild enhancement can be found in your guild hall's tavern. We don't benefit from our gear here, so karmic enrichments will not apply. The 50% karma bonus can be acquired from a karma booster, bonfire, or candy corn gobbler. Winter's blessing you get from the daily for giving gifts to orphans. Players will usually drop banners in this general area, and sometimes bonfires if you're lucky. Don't forget, your account karma gain will count as well. Since a lot of my tactics involve dodge jumping, I opt to use endurance regen food instead of karma gain food. This will bring my dodge up about 2 seconds sooner. No need to splurge on the 40% stuff, 30% is enough. As with most jumping puzzles, you'll want to avoid using large-sized characters like Char or Norn, as they make it harder to see where your character hitbox is going to be connecting with the jumping platforms. I find a slender female human with simple clothing offers the smoothest jumping experience. You'll also notice I play in the lowest graphic settings to maximize my frame rate and reduce visual clutter. If this is your first time in Winter Wonderland, I would suggest starting on one of the easier difficulties, the Snowman Path or the Quaggan Path. You'll see the Quaggan Path, the snowflakes never disappear, whereas the Snowman Path, they disappear slowly. Gingerbread, which is the route we'll be farming, they disappear quite quickly, and you're going to have to get used to these mechanics before you jump into that. Additionally, you should be aware that there is a constant frostbite debuff on you, which will deal damage over time and slow you. This is to prevent you from staying at safe spots in the puzzle and waiting forever. It also keeps you in combat, which means you're going to have to get used to dodge jumping. If you've never used a dodge jump before, it's a technique that involves pressing both dodge and jump at the same time, which is very easy with the default keybinds of space and V. You can just roll your thumb across them, and the idea is you are doing a mid-air dodge, which gives you a little bit more distance than a regular jump. See how a regular jump takes me about halfway there, and if I do a dodge jump from the same place, I go down to about 2/3 of the way, and that's going to help on really long jumps when we start cutting corners and skipping snowflakes. It is a difficult technique to start, but once you've mastered it, you will never want to go back to normal jumping again. The puzzle starts off by jumping on these snowflakes, and as you notice, they do disappear quite quickly, and players in front of you can trigger them to disappear before you reach them, so you have to make sure that you stay near the head of the pack and you go quite quickly. You'll also notice those long candy canes. They can be a little tricky to jump on. What I'm showing you now is what I consider to be an average, normal, relaxed kind of run. There's not a lot of snowflake skipping or dodge jumps or anything like that. This is just kind of what the standard player does. I'm just trying to keep up with the people in front of me. So once you reach this midpoint, you will warm up at the fire after jumping on the mints, and then you'll notice there is a present staircase that you're going to have to jump onto. This is kind of a long jump, so do be careful. Now once you start jumping on the presents, they will start disappearing after a couple seconds, and you reach the top. You'll notice the red AoEs on the ground. That is the snowman trying to blow you off the platform, so don't get hit by that. Here you're going to be going up these snowy ledges and jumping on mints to avoid rolling snowballs. No need to go to the top of that mint, just walk along. You'll also see Skrit foragers off in the distance. they're going to be throwing snowball AoEs, that's the red circles you see on your screen, and those will knock you down and chill you. At the end here, you're just jumping on the floating presents, and slide into the box. That's the run. Once you come out of the box, collect your chest, and go to the Asurgate to restart, and do it all over again. Now that we've gone over all the basics, let's go into the actual speedrun tactics. To start, you want to note that you can jump on snowflakes briefly before they spawn. This is useful because if you're fast enough, you'll be able to catch up to the snowflakes respawning in front of you, and this tactic will help you keep your momentum. To learn when the first snowflake spawns, pay attention to the ones immediately following it. 5 will spawn in the following pattern, and then the first 2 will spawn right after. And away we go. Use a dodge jump to skip the 3rd snowflake here. When you're going around these corners, the shortest path is going to be the inside route, so make sure you're jumping on the inside tips of these snowflakes. It's tempting to jump through the middles of these snowflakes, but make sure you stick to the inside corners. Again, it can be tempting to take the high outside path for safety, but you have plenty of room to safely cut the corner here. Make sure you tackle the candy canes with short, direct jumps, and ignore that snowflake off to the right altogether. As before, make sure to stick to the inside tips of the snowflakes. And here we're going to use a dodge jump to skip the corner. This can be a risky one, but it's also quite flexible. Just make sure you're facing that next snowflake. A second dodge jump here allows us to skip the snowflake on the left. And here no dodge is needed as long as you go from tip to tip. Feel free to skip either of these 2 tricky jumps for safety, since if your run is going well, you'll have caught up to the snowflake spawns anyway. This part can get a little spooky if the snowflakes aren't there yet, but remember you have a lot of air time for them to spawn. If you're not used to the spawn locations yet, just take your time. You'll probably have to wait for the presents anyway. Now pay attention here. We're going to skip the next 2 mints on the left. If you're not running dodge food, you'll have to wait a moment to get your endurance back. Alternatively, you can do this with a normal jump, but it's a nail biter. I'd advise against it unless you're going for record time. Now time for the presents. RNG here will make or break your speedrun. The presents will start popping about 2 seconds after first contact. They take about 5 seconds to disappear and another 8 to respawn. This means if someone reaches the presents just before you do, you could end up having to wait an extra 14 or 15 seconds. That's a lot for a run that takes less than 90 seconds total. If you find you're slowing down on the presents, just mash your spacebar harder. We're nearing the end, but this is where things start to get complicated. First off, determine whether or not you need to dodge the snowman's AoEs. If we can hold on to a dodge here, we can use it later on for movement, or to dodge a scrit snowball. More about those later though. This is also where we'll decide how we're going to tackle the snowbanks ahead. In this case, we'll have enough space to make it immediately to the 2 mints on the right. This isn't always the case though, so I'll go over later what to do if you can't make that run. This part of the puzzle changes a lot based on RNG. You can expect to see wildly different patterns when it comes to both the rolling snowball timings and the thrown scrit snowballs. Here we're going to do a little bit of a corner cut, as opposed to safely running down the center of the path. It's important to get a feel for just how much you can cut here, as doing so can sometimes allow you to bypass an entire snowball, or at least help with your timing on the next part. Be very careful here, since these giant snowballs can easily clip you and knock you off, even if it looks like you're safe. When we do a pause on the big mint like this, it means the timing will be right for us to skip the safety mint on the left, as long as we're quick and use our dodges to reach the final mint. From here, we have 2 options. The most direct route takes us to the small present ahead of us, and then directly onto the right. This is a very risky jump, and is best made from the highest point on the mint, slightly to the right. Alternatively, we can jump back onto the snowy path before jumping onto the larger blue presents. This is safer, however not without its own danger. Depending on the pattern of how the scrit are throwing their snowballs, you'll sometimes encounter an AoE at this part. This one is buggy and doesn't show the ground target indicator. It's best to pause here to check for this AoE. Once you know if it's there or not, it'll be the same on every run as long as you stay on the map. If you get chilled at any point, don't panic. You can recover as long as you don't get stun locked or killed. Take it slow and stand in safe spots to let snowballs pass. Watch your buff timer and wait out the chill duration before pressing on. Backing up a bit, we'll take a look at what to do when the giant snowballs don't line up properly, forcing you to pause on the very first safety mint. Things get a little sketchy here, because each map is going to have different timing for the Scrit Snowball AoEs. This means one sequence of dodges might not work for every map. You'll always want to start with a dodge jump off the mint in order to get distance. There are a total of 5 potential Scrit AoEs to avoid with this strategy, so deal with them carefully. Remember how we talked about jumping this corner earlier? Well, now we're really going to push that to the limit by actually jumping around the large snowball. This means we don't have to wait and can run right through to the next mint, but still need to be aware of the Scrit bombardment. You'll need to dodge here, sometimes twice. This is where dodge food helps a lot. After the mint, it's a straightaway to the final presence, and we proceed normally to the finish. Sometimes it's hard to tell what to do, so when in doubt, dodge through the snow boulders. Easiest thing in the game. Or not. I got a lucky snowflake bug where they didn't despawn, so I thought this would be a great chance to show you just how fast this can be done. I also did some splicing to cut out the waiting for presents to show you guys a run that takes 1 minute 7 seconds from start to finish. In terms of run timings, a normal relaxed run with no skips or dodge jumping takes around 1:40, whereas the slowest speed runs knock off about 10 seconds at 1:30. The fastest possible time falls just below 1:10, but relies on a lot of luck when it comes to the timing of both snowflake and present spawns. A bad present spawn, meaning someone started to pop them just before you got to the bonfire, will increase runtime by almost 15 seconds. Also, keep in mind the transition time from finishing your run to collecting your loot and restarting over again will add some extra time based on how quickly you load. For me, there are about 10 seconds between jumping in the box to starting a new run. This means if my runs average about 1:20, I could fit 20 runs into the 30-minute window that the map stays open for. Record runs above 20 have been seen, but are highly dependent on lucky spawns. One final note, I do use action camera because it allows me to make slightly more reflexive jumps. Also, because you're going pretty fast, you'll need to be quick on those jump button presses. In some sections, the best strategy is honestly just mass jump as fast as possible. That's it from me for now, so thank you for watching this through to the end. If you want to get a hold of me, you can find me on Discord through our guild website at liar.fyi. Merry Winter's Day, and happy jumping from Kuro.